Hey yo, I'ma keep it a $1.50 with you. DDDs have more pendulum support than some archetypes have cards. Like I don't know how I'm going to make this video. Because whenever I'm getting the cards that I want to talk about in these videos and going through, I look up the archetype, I just scroll, click, okay, 1 or 2 cards, pendulum support, all that kind of stuff, and the list for this one, it just kept on going and going and going, and I had to just further down, and I had to keep on clicking more and more cards. Bro, these guys have a polygamous relationship with pendulums. I mean, is that the one where you have like concubines and multiple wives? I don't know. There's a lot. They have too many pendulum cards. Can I even cover all of them? You know what? Let's just get started. Okay, so first up is DD Arc. It's a level 4 monster with 2000 defense, which sounds kind of decent, and it has a pendulum scale of 1, which means that if you get a pendulum scale high enough on the opposing side, this just allows you to special summon so many of the DD monsters from your hand. Now, you can target, for its pendulum effect, you can target 1 pendulum summon monster your opponent controls and destroy it, and you also destroy this card, which would then send it to the face-up extra deck, right? Now, its monster effect is, if this card is destroyed by a card effect, you can special summon 1 face-up DD pendulum monster from your extra deck, except this one, but negate its effects. Now, I cannot even begin to pretend to imagine the amount of potential that this gives DDs to like get more monsters for their fusion summons and potential synchro summons, and just all sorts of summons. Do you know, there are synchro pendulum monsters. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Where do they go? What do you do? You know what? We're staying on track. DD Cerberus, a level 4 monster with a scale of 6. Now, once per turn, you can target 1 DD monster you control and change its level to 4. And if you do, it gains 400 attack and defense, even if this card leaves the field. I imagine that that's there to help you with synchro summoning and adjusting your levels. Now, its monster effect is that when this card is pendulum summoned from the hand, while you control a DD monster other than this one, target 1 continuous spell card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So, my understanding is that this card is for recovery, getting back, your continuous spells that sometimes go to the graveyard that are there for like your fusions and searching your deck and all that kind of stuff. So this isn't too wild, I don't think, but it is potential support for us to get. The thing about this is there are so many pendulum monsters are the summoning mechanic that have the least amount of cards dedicated to it in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, it has less there are less pendulum monsters in existence than XYZ monsters, than synchro monsters, and everything else. So for this one archetype to have like 26 of these cards, there's no way they don't give it to us. Like, there's no way they don't give us at least some of these. So let's just keep going. I'm losing my mind a little bit. DD Dog, a level 6 monster with a pendulum scale of 3. You can target 1 fusion, synchro, or XYZ monster your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of this turn, then destroy this card in the pendulum zone. You can only do this once per turn. Now, what this just says to me is, whatever your opponent has on the field, a Rhino Bus, a Cyber/Harpy Lady, activate this card, negate its effects, and then do whatever else you want to do in that given turn. So that sounds really, really good to me. Then its monster effect is, once per turn, if your opponent special summons a fusion, synchro, or XYZ monster, you can target 1 of those monsters, and that card cannot attack, and its effects are negated for the rest of the turn. So DD Dog just seems really, really good, whether or not you pendulum summon with it, or you actually pendulum summon it out onto the field. So I really, really like this card. DD Evil, I'll be honest, I haven't read this one. Once while this card is in your pendulum zone, when your opponent pendulum summons a monster, you can activate this effect. This turn, that pendulum summon monster cannot attack, also negate its effects. Hey, yo! I like you. It's a level 4 monster. What's your monster effect? Cannot attack unless you control another DD monster. Okay. During your opponent's, it has 2000 attack. During your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you can target 1 pendulum summon monster your opponent controls and negate it. Jesus! And negate its effects until the end of the turn. You can only use this effect of DD Evil once per turn. Bro! And it's got a pendulum scale of 8. That's fire! This card is fire. This card is straight flames, bro, because your opponent basically just doesn't get to pendulum summon, or at least they don't get to do anything with the cards that they pendulum summon out. Obviously, if they pendulum summon a monster and then use it as a material for like a synchro or XYZ summon, this card wouldn't be able to affect those new monsters. But as for like the base pendulum summoned monsters, if your opponent gets a big monster out of the main deck with a nice effect, you can just stop that in its tracks, and that just sounds good to me. Next is DD Orthros, and I'm just gonna, I can't lie to you, we're family here. I haven't read any of the cards past this point. I'm learning with you now, because like normally when I do these videos, there's only like, oh yeah, like 4 or 5 maximum cards, you know, and then the list, it just kept getting longer and longer. So DD Orthros, a level 4 monster. Once per turn, as its pendulum effect, you can target 1 spell trap card on the field and 1 other DD or Dark Contract monster you control and destroy them. Huh. I mean, that seems, that's interesting, I guess. You're kind of giving up a lot. Well, I guess maybe not a lot. Maybe you don't want those cards to be on the field on your next standby phase so you don't take life point damage, so you can destroy one of your cards and then also destroy your opponent's back row, which is interesting enough. Its monster effect is when you take battle or effect damage, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned to your field, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except fiend type monsters. Actually, I think most of the DD monsters are fiends anyway, and like I just talked about with the continuous spells and the like, they will pretty much always deal effect damage unless you have a different effect to counteract the effect damage that you would have taken. So this is interesting. It's a free special summon, basically. I don't know if it's necessarily worth it, but I like the cut of your jib. This doesn't seem as powerful as some of the ones we've read, which makes it more likely that we'll get it, actually. So this is kind of cool. This video is gonna be long as hell. DD Proud Chevalier? What is your... Anyway, it's a level 5 monster with a scale of 6. Once per turn, you can pay 500 life points. I mean, we only have 4,000 life points and you're already paying a lot of life points with DDs, but let's see what it does. Target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, it loses 500 attack. It is... Okay, unless you have a DD card in your other pendulum zone, this card pendulum scale becomes 5. That is a mid pendulum effect. I don't care for that in the slightest. Its monster effect is when this card is normal summon, you can add 1 face-up dark pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand, which means that a pendulum monster would have had to have been destroyed, and as we saw, some of the other ones destroyed themselves with their effects. The only thing is, this says if it's normal summon, so not if it's special summon, not if it's pendulum summon, you would have to actually normal summon this level 5 monster, which can be done. I mean, there are some DD monsters that will special summon themselves from the hand, if I'm not mistaken, and you can normal summon on top of that, but altogether, this is probably one of my least favorite ones that we've read so far. I'm a pass on this, which again means that we would probably get it. DD Proud Ogre, level 6 monster, scale of 8. Its pendulum effect is once per turn, pay 500 life points. I'm seeing a lot of that pay 500 life points now. Target 1 DD monster you control, it gains 500 attack. Okay, unless you have a DD card in your other pendulum zone, this card, so this is basically the reverse of the last one we read, where its pendulum scale becomes 5 and it does that whole thing with 500 life points and 500 attack. Not a fan, personally, because DDs are already super good at getting massive monsters on the field. They don't need that extra little push, but whatever. Monster effect, when this card is normal summon, you can special summon 1 face-up dark pendulum monster from your extra deck. That is good, but it has its effects negated. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except DD monsters. That's natural, that's normal, but again, you have to normal summon this card. So even though special summoning a pendulum monster could be really good, you know, it also had... For a pendulum monster to be in the face of extra deck, it has to have been destroyed, and the other ones that we saw having the effects to destroy themselves had pretty medium to mediocre like stat lines. It's mostly about their effects. Maybe we'll come across other ones that would make this card worth it, but like so far, this one and the last one we read, Proud Ogre and Proud Chevalier, not a big fan, I must say. Okay, so now I think we're entering the trend of these monsters coming in groups and pairs, because I saw a number of Savant cards. So DD Savant Copernicus. Your name is Copernicus? That's stupid. Okay, your pendulum effect is you cannot pendulum summon monsters except DD monsters. Okay, this effect cannot be negated. That's okay, whatever. Once while this card is in your pendulum zone, you can negate an activated spell effect that would inflict damage to you, then destroy this card. So basically, you would be negating one of your own continuous spell effects and then destroying this card. So that's all that it really does. It's all that it really gives you, which, I mean, could be nice, but you have other cards like DD Beowulf. Well, I guess DD Beowulf, that card would destroy your spells and traps, but there are other DD cards that can turn that life point cost into a life point gain, and I feel like that's better than this, in my opinion anyway. I could be wrong. I haven't actually piloted a DD deck. I've just looked into them and researched as to like what they do and how they play, and I like them a lot, but I'm still working on my own deck. Its monster effect is that if this card is normal or special summon, send 1 DD or dark contract from your deck to the graveyard. Okay. Oh wait, is that all? You can only use this effect once per turn. I mean, that's not bad because a lot of them have effects in the graveyard, so that's actually decent, I guess. And if it's normal or special summon, so you could pendulum summon this out, unlike the proud ones that we saw previously that were kind of ass. And so this seems a lot better to me. I like this. Again, not my favorite card that we've read, but it's interesting. DD Savant Galilei, like Galileo. I think these are like old, is it Greek or Roman or whatever it is kinds of names. All right, fine. Level 10 monster with a scale of 1. Okay, that's a interesting dichotomy. It's got 0 attack and 0 defense. Its pendulum effect is you cannot pendulum summon monsters except DD. Okay, yeah, fair enough. This effect cannot be negated. Same old, same old. Once per turn during your standby phase, increase this card's pendulum scale by 2. Why would you want to increase it? What? Why would you want to increase it? It's got a great pendulum scale. Then destroy all monsters you control with the level less than or equal to this card's. Oh, that's not. That doesn't sound like a good thing. Destroy all monsters you control with a level less than or equal to this card's pendulum scale except DD monsters. See, here's the thing. If it said destroy all monsters on the field, then that would be fire, but it's only destroying my monsters, so I don't really know why you would do that. Maybe it's just something I'm missing. Its monster effect is during either player's turn, you can discard this card. Oh, it's a hand trap. Target one DD or Dark Contract you control and return it to the hand. Ooh, that's really, really good, right? Because right at the end of your opponent's turn, or if your opponent tries to like Cosmic Cyclone or MST one of your continuous spell cards, you can just return it to the hand. That's so freaking good, and it's card, not just spells or traps. So you can return your monsters to the hand. You can return your, I mean, you're probably using this on your spells and your traps, and that way you can just dodge the effect damage. That's really, really nice. I quite like that effect actually. So I'm not a fan of its pendulum effect. It's got a decent scale, so I guess it's good for that. But its real value is as a hand trap, I think, for dodging effect damage or just protecting your resources. That's pretty cool. But this video is gonna get really long. Like we are not even halfway through all of the DD pendulum support that there is basically. So what I'm thinking to do is I'm gonna cut this in two. I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna take a break, get hydrated, get myself some water, and you guys will see me reacting to the other DD pendulum cards that exist in the multiverse later on. I can't promise that it'll be. I can't promise that it will be this week. If you're watching this video, I'm probably still on hiatus. So depending on how future me decides to move things around, you'll be seeing it soon. Don't worry yourself.